Hello, and welcome to the Creative Mojo podcast. This is episode 51. Today is July 29th, 2018. My name is Joanne, and I am recording this episode, as I always do, from my home in Calgary, Alberta, Canada. I'm recording on a new phone today. I used my iPhone to record this, and I got an iPhone 8 the other day, which is very exciting, but the lighting adjustments seem a little different. So please excuse if the lighting is a little darker and dimmer even than and shadowier than even usual. I tried to make some adjustments, but I have some drapes closed in the house today. It's very warm outside and it's middle of Sunday afternoon, so I'm trying to keep too much heat from beating into the house. So anyway, enough excuses. Oh, there's a lot more color tone adjustment happening on this camera, I can tell. Anyway, I hope you've all been really well since the last time I recorded. It's been a few weeks, I believe it's been 3 weeks. And I have a few things to show you today, pretty much predominantly all things I've finished, which is extremely exciting. Quickly before I get into show you what I've been working on, get into showing you what I've been working on, I just wanted to remind people that if you're a first-time viewer, and welcome if you are, or if you're a long-time viewer, welcome back. I wanted to remind everybody that we have a year-long knit-along going on in the Creative Mojo podcast group on Ravelry, and that's the pattern socks, year-long pattern socks Cal. And for that Cal, you can knit in as many pairs of pattern socks throughout the year as you want. There's one finished object thread which I draw prizes from all year long. I draw prizes every 2 months, and the only rules really are that you have to have started before or after January 1st, 2018, and you have to finish them before December 31st, 2018. So lots of time left to finish. You can enter as many times as you want, one pair of socks per entry. As I said, I draw always from that thread. If I've drawn you for a particular entry, particular pair of socks, and you've won a prize, that particular entry won't be eligible again, but any other things that you've entered into it in different posts will still be eligible. So you could stand to win if you're doing lots of socks, as some people are. I think we've got 90 or 100 entries in there maybe now. There's some wonderful pattern socks, and they're very inspirational. So and you can win more than once if you're doing multiple pairs of socks. So please do come along and join in on that. And that's going to lead me into talking a little bit about what do I start with? I think I'll start with my one lone current work in progress, which is a pair of pattern socks. These are socks actually that I started in January, I think, and I did the first sock earlier in the year, in the early spring, I think. These are the Vintage Fairy Light socks by Helen Stewart, the Curious Handmaid, and I knit them, or the first one and the second one are being knit out of Wool & Boon classic sock yarn in the Robin Sparkles colorway. It's really pretty. I think my camera's doing a decent job of showing the actual colors of that. It's very pale blue and white with these wonderful speckles of, bright speckles of red and brown and green and yellow, like very autumnal colors speckled in there. It's beautiful, and I knit the first one. I really enjoyed this. It has these lovely little these are the fairy lights on it, this lovely little pattern at the top, and then it's just a 3x1 rib all the way down the rest of the sock. So it's quite fun and sort of relaxing to knit too, because you do all the work up in the, the adventurous part of the work up in the first part, and then it's just a nice ribbed sock for the rest of the way down. And I started on the second one, so I have just completed the fairy lights part of the second sock and just started the ribbing. So it'll be easy peasy, just one step up from vanilla now for the rest of the sock, which is nice. So I'll be able to use it as a traveling sock project and stuff like that. I got inspired to pick these up. Rachel and Tabby were the hosts of the Hey Sisters podcast and do Hey Sisters Yarn Co. Beautiful yarns that they do. They have a I think Tabby started it Saturday sock knitting hashtag on Instagram, and it's just to encourage you to take a little time on Saturdays and work on a pair of socks. And I thought it's a great little tiny inspiration to me to pull out some of the half-finished socks that I have going this year, because I have not had a lot of sock knitting mojo going on, and get some things done. So I've started on the second sock of this, and as I said, I think now that I've done the difficult part, they'll sort of become travel knitting for me. And that at the moment is the only work in progress that I have going. It's not the only work in progress I have, let's be honest. I have many, but it's the only active one. I have to decide what other, especially since I'm going to sort of make these more on the go knitting now, to decide what I want to work on next. I have, as you know, several sweaters on the go. I was making great progress for a while there on my Weekender sweater by Andrea Mowry, but that is a worsted weight sweater, and I'm knitting in a bit of a dense gauge, and I'm 3/4 of the way, I would say, through the, maybe even a little more through the body. And so it's like a great big lump of wool on my lap in these warm temperatures. And as I've said before in the podcast, we don't have air conditioning in our house. We have some fans and stuff, but it doesn't, the weather has not been really conducive to me wanting to knit on a big, heavy lump of wool. Although, as I move into finished objects, I did finish one sweater. This is not as heavyweight as my Weekender, and there were some days recently where I felt like it was too warm to work on this, but I persevered. We had a few cooler evenings, which is really nice. We sort of started to cool down it gets hot in the afternoon still here, but it cools down in the evening, and my husband and I have been really enjoying. We started all over again watching Game of Thrones from the beginning, because it had been a while, and we hadn't watched season 7 yet. And I know season 8 will be coming out, the final season will be coming out, sometime probably in the new year. And so we decided it'd be fun to go back now that it's all on one of our streaming apps. If you're Canadian, Crave TV carries all of the Game of Thrones up to season 6, end of season 6. So we went back and watched all of that over the last few weeks, and some of the nights that were a little cooler, I did some great progress, and I'm so excited. I finished, this is my Erie sweater. I've shown on the podcast obviously before, by Isabel Kramer. The pattern was in Lane Magazine issue 4, I think. I'm just gonna double check back on my, I don't know if yes, Lane Magazine, or Lene Magazine, I believe it's pronounced actually, I think. Probably I'm wrong. But issue number 4 is where this pattern lives, and I really enjoyed this. I'm so happy to be finished it. I feel like it's maybe the most successful sweater I've knit to date. I can't wait for it to be fall so that I can wear it. It's a sport weight sweater, so it's it will be warm and cozy, but it's not super thick, and it will not be super hot. In fact, I put it on the other night and sat on the couch for a little while wearing it, and even though it was a medium temperature evening, I didn't feel hot at all, and it breathes well. The yarn that I used is Abundant Earth Fibers in their Joseph and Annie base, and it's a merino, natural merino, and small amount of Targhee blend, non-superwash, 100% wool. I think it's like 90% merino and 10% Targhee or something. And it makes it, it's a very bouncy, look at, you can see all the stretch and spring that's in this sweater and was in this yarn. And it actually feels very breathable. It feels both warm but not like, it feels like it breathes, if you know what I mean. Anyway, I finished the second sleeve on it just a couple of days ago, and show it off to you. It's a beautiful top-down raglan construction with this lovely patterning in the front, the back of the sweater, and the sleeves are just plain stockinette. I've done everything except I haven't actually given this a block yet. I will probably wait a few weeks until we get a month or so, until we get a little closer to fall temperatures, and then I give this and another couple of sweaters all blocks, and washes and blocks. Sorry, I'm very thirsty. It's the warm temperatures, I think, today. but all the ends are woven in and everything else. And so as I said, you can see it's got this lovely texture in the front. It's the center panel is lace there, and there are larger cables, and there's a small sort of, it's really a faux cable actually. And the rest of the front of the body is in a double seed stitch. And it was so much fun to knit. And then just ribbing at the end of the sleeves and at the bottom of the body. And as I said, the back and the sleeves are just stockinette. This was just like the perfect pattern in a lot of ways, I think, because I found it, there was enough stuff going on in the front for it to be interesting and to keep you kind of motivated and moving along and kind of doing the, oh, I'll do one more repeat kind of thing. But it wasn't so hard that I had to glue myself to the charts. Once I got partway through the front, I had memorized what the repeats were, and I found it very easy to sort of read my knitting and know where I was and knit it just with the occasional reference to the pattern, which was really, really great. So it really kind of was motivating and kept going. The only, and it fits great. Like I said, I have tried it on. It fits really nicely. I didn't, I made the largest size, I believe. I didn't use as much yarn as the pattern called for. I have a full skein. I had, I think, 6 skeins of this yarn, sport weight yarn, and I have one full skein and about a third of another skein left. I don't know quite what I'm going to do with them, but I'll figure out something. As I said, it is fantastically beautiful yarn. Maybe I'll make my husband a pair of gloves or something out of it. He loves wool gloves. He loves them with the short cut off fingers, but individual fingers. And he wears them over a very lightweight pair of gloves he has, and he keeps his hands warm, but gives him some good flexibility in his fingers when he's driving in the winter, things like that. Anyway, the only modification I did to this, and it was an unintentional modification, was the collar band, which is rolling a little in the back at the moment. I'm really hoping that blocking will fix that, although it doesn't do it while I'm wearing it, so I guess that's all that really matters. The collar band in the pattern is supposed to be 1x1 rib, and I just didn't notice that because the sleeve ends are 2x2 and the bottom is 2x2. So I didn't notice until I had already started knitting it that it should have been 1x1 instead of 2x2. And I thought, oh well, doesn't make any difference. It still looks really nice. It still lines up pretty nicely, growing up out of the pattern down here. So I'm perfectly fine with that. I don't think I did anything, don't think I changed anything else on it. I did end up somehow knitting the sleeves, even though I was very conscientiously marking all of my decreases, and I'd marked them on the one sleeve with stitch markers, the little safety pins style stitch markers, and did it on the other. Somehow I ended up with 2 less stitches on this sleeve, I think, than this one. So it might even have been in the when I picked up under the arms, somehow maybe I ended up with 2 less to begin with. I don't know. Anyway, although I think I did count them at the beginning, so I don't know what happened, but I didn't. But it doesn't make any difference. I can't notice it in the fit, so it's all good. So very successful knit. Highly recommend this pattern. If you have the Laine magazine, or I believe if it isn't now, it probably shortly will be available individually on Ravelry, this pattern. And it's a great sport weight knit. Really lovely sweater, really, really happy with it. As I said, can't wait for fall to wear it. So very happy to have finished that. I will get on to another sweater shortly. I just decided I may be really bad and cast on my Tanya sweater, the Caitlin Hunter Boyland Knitworks sweater that I talked about in the last episode. I might cast that on. It's a lighter weight project. I don't know, or maybe I'll go back to the other 2 sweaters that I have that I really should get back to, that I'm quite a long way into, are both heavier weight winter sweaters, and I'm not feeling particularly inspired to knit them at the moment. And oh, I should say I got part of what kind of helped inspire me to keep focused on this and press on and finish it is there's Amy, who is Exterminate. I'll put her information in the show notes and the down bar here on YouTube, Amy Exterminate on Instagram has a great Knit Whip Cal. It's all one word, Knit Whip Cal, going on where she's encouraging people to move projects off their needles between now and the end of the year, which it's always great things that help inspire me. I always have so many whips, things sitting in project bags, neglected, and so it's a great inspiration. And so I've been joining in on that. So this is my first finished project for that Cal. And then I finished a pair of socks too, which I showed you the first of these last week. These are my straight line socks that I test knit for Elise Garnier, who's the host of the Canadian podcast My Two Tips. Really, really sweet little pattern. I really enjoyed it and really look forward to wearing these. It's just a nice, simple slip stitch pattern down the front. I did a Eye of Partridge heel, which looks really nice. Rounded toe. I did it pretty much exactly to pattern, as she called it, to pattern, because I was test knitting, so I wanted to make sure that I was really following the pattern. And the test knit was only to complete one sock by the time she put the pattern out, which is now out on Ravelry. I may actually give a copy of that pattern away as one of my prizes a little bit later on in the pattern socks cal. That or I don't know, maybe it will be my end of August prize. We'll see. Anyway, I knit them out of Ancient Arts, which is a Canadian yarn you might know of. It's their label. I used the Socknado fingering base, which is a super wash fine merino, 80% and 20% nylon. It is a fingering, although it is a slightly plumper, heavier fingering, so they made a nice dense sock. I knit them on a 2.25 millimeter needle, and they will be a nice warm, sort of dense winter sock. So they haven't actually been on my feet yet. Feel very, no, I did try on, I'm lying, I did try on the test knit one to make sure it fit. But again, I have not had the desire to put wool socks on my feet for the last few weeks. So those are my knitting finished objects and my whips. Not as much knitting time as I said, due to the temperatures. However, I did some sewing again, which has been a while. I think it might have been, it was a while anyway. It was quite a few months, maybe even into last fall, the last time I took up my sewing machine. But I got sort of inspired by watching some other people talking about their sewing on some of their podcasts. When other podcasters are talking about showing off their sewing, I get so inspired by seeing the things they make, and I really want to make more clothes for myself. I'm a very newbie sewer. For those of you who may not have watched back episodes that I talk about my sewing adventures, my husband gave me a sewing machine for Christmas 2, maybe coming up 3 years ago, I think. More like 2 maybe. First sewing machine that I've had since I was a teenager. I did learn sewing, and I'm old enough that there were still home ec classes where you learn sewing. But I haven't, I hadn't done it. My sister is a wonderful sewist and sews all kinds of, not as much right now because she has 2 young teenage boys, 12 and 14 teenage boys, and very full-time job and a very busy life, and she just hasn't had time to do a lot of sewing. But in the past she has done lots, and she's a very expert and knowledgeable sewer. So she's a great resource for me. But yeah, sewing has always sort of intimidated me, and I just decided I was gonna go for it and try stuff and give myself permission to try things in a way that if they don't work out, that's okay. It's all learning, and I'm trying not to start on sewing things with the most beautiful and precious and expensive fabrics, but to buy some inexpensive fabrics so that if I make a mistake, it's not gonna be the end of the world, And so I've been gathering a few patterns, and the one frustration I have is finding plus size patterns that actually come in realistic plus sizes. I find that with a lot of the commercial patterns in the stores, they say they're plus size patterns, but when you start reading the measurements and looking at, and I discovered the hard way that, if a pattern says it's a size 20, it has a size 20, it's not the same size 20 as you might buy in a store, which is generally kind of what I wear. between an 18 and a 22, depending on the garment, but most often probably size 20. And I bought one pattern, Butterick's, I think, that said it went up to size 20. And then when I looked at the measurements, I went, oh, that's not a size 20. That's more like maybe size 14 or maybe 16. And that's the largest size on the pattern. So that was really annoying. And I can't return them. So finding cute, interesting stuff I want to make, and a lot of the indie dyers, they don't go up to those to the larger sizes. A lot of the indie dyer patterns that I really like, that I see other people sewing, those all seem to stop somewhere around what would be the equivalent of a size 12 or 14 is the largest size, kind of looks to me. So that's been frustrating. I've been trying to find cute, fun, interesting patterns, particularly ones I can sort of get by downloading and stuff, that I want to make that suit the kinds of things I like to wear, that are in the right sizes. And so if you are a plus, a person who wears over a size, say 16 or 18, and you have any other great tips about patterns, just let me know. I would love to know some ideas. But the two things that have been very successful for me, I started with patterns from 100 Acts of Sewing by Isabel Kramer. If you're on Instagram, you will have seen probably lots of people make these. They're very simple patterns. They're in a great range of sizes. So they go from a petite up to sizes that fit me and even larger. And they're very, very simple to make. They're perfect beginner sewing projects. And they've been great for me in terms of starting to get up my confidence a bit about the sewing. So I showed in the past, I started with what's the pattern dress number 1. A very simple sort of pullover style. In fact, this I'm wearing right now is the very first dress number 1 I made out of some lovely cotton seersucker. I wear this all the time, and it was my sort of muslin tust of it. I've made lightweight denim one since, and I made a lightweight winter flannel one I wear too. But this one, as I said, was my first one. The seersucker is a very lightweight fabric, and in the summer I wear this tons. I wear it to work with leggings, and sometimes a little black cardigan that I have, very lightweight black cardigan over it, which is great for the air conditioning at work. I wear it sometimes over a short-sleeved or even a very, very lightweight long-sleeve t-shirt. I really love it. So, and the other ones I made I've really loved too. So I decided to use that pattern again, but do some modifications to it now that I'm pretty confident on that pattern. And I had this beautiful fabric, Liberty of London cotton fabric, cotton lawn, I think it is, yeah, that I bought several years ago when I was in Rochester, Minnesota for the, I think 3 years ago probably, for the, at a knitting retreat. Why can't I think of the knitting retreat I was at? The Stockinette Zombies, sorry. Stockinette Zombies knitting retreat in Rochester, and they had a beautiful store there with all kinds of great fabrics, and I picked up this fabric and I just love it. And it was one of those, oh, I'm just gonna hang on to this for a while until I find the perfect pattern for it, until I get my skills up and can make a beautiful top out of it. Excuse me, because I had about the right amount for a top, a shirt. And Liberty of London, if you will know if you've ever purchased that fabric or know much about fabrics, it's a fairly expensive fabric, so I didn't want to make something and mess it up. But I finally decided, I'll show you. So this is the fabric, and as you can see, it is so beautiful and so colorful. And I realized, thinking about it and looking at it, that the fabric is actually the star of the show here. So I didn't need any kind of complicated pattern. It's so so bright, and there's so much going on just in the print, beautiful, beautiful print, that all I needed, and it's a flowers pattern, right? That all I needed was something very simple, and it's cotton lawn is very lightweight. It's a summer fabric, really, and so I just made another version of this dress. And the normal ones I make go down to about, I would say, midway towards my knee. They're sort of, they're tunic length, but they're a little bit longer than a tunic, so they're a short dress. They're above the knee dress, and they sit maybe 2.5 inches higher than my knee. And you can adjust that hem so you could make them shorter or longer. And so I made one shorter. I made this into a top. It is a tunic length top, so it does sit down below my hips. It sort of just sits down below my butt, I guess, basically. It's a perfect length, actually. And the fact that it's this nice lightweight fabric, it has a lovely drape to it. It's really cute to wear. I wore it to work the other day with just a pair of black, lightweight black jeans I have that are straight leg jeans. So it looks really smart. And yeah, and it's just got, you use bias tape binding on the inside of the sleeves and the neckline. And normally they have pockets, that like this dress has pockets down the front. I didn't put pockets on the top. So I'm super happy with that, how it turned out, how it looks, the improvement that I'm getting in my finishing of my knitting. My sewing. So I made that, super happy with that. I've already worn it twice, I think. And it will get lots more wear. And it is something I actually could wear, again, with black jeans and a black. I have a couple of lightweight black long sleeved t-shirts. So I could even wear it in the cooler weather. And then I tried another 100 Active Sewing pattern, which was, I don't think I mentioned, Sonia Phillip is the name of the creator of the 100 Active Sewing patterns, and she's really inspirational. She wears her patterns all the time and she's on Instagram as 100 Active Sewing, I think. So I've got a couple of other patterns from her, and so I took out the what's called tunic #1, which is either, depending on which version you use, is either sort of longer tunic length, which was sort of would be similar to the length this one ended up, or a more standard shirt length. And I used the standard shirt length. It's a step up from this pattern in terms of it has sleeves and they are separate pieces, so it's about sewing in the sleeves. And I made a top. Now, this was not 100%, I don't think, a successful, this basically was also muslin. I used some really cute, obviously, gingham that I picked up, but that was quite inexpensive fabric. I try to go, we don't have a lot of great fabric stores here in Calgary, I will say, or that I know of anyway. But we do have a couple of sort of big box fabrics. Fabricland is the one of the large ones. And I try to go there. They have sales several times a year, and this time of year they have their inventory sale where they're getting ready to do inventory, so they deep discount lots of stuff to clear it out before the inventory. And both last year and this year I went before the to their inventory sale, and I can pick up some cute fabrics that I like that are like $5 a meter, and or $5 a yard, whatever, meter yard. I get so confused between metric and imperial still after all these years, even though Canada is basically a metric country. So I can buy enough fabric to make something for like $15, which then I'm not going to be heartbroken if it doesn't work out great. So that's perfect. So I picked up I picked this up, I think, last year on the cheap. So I made this little top. It's, let's see the sort of length of it there. And it worked out pretty well, except the neckline is too big. I made it, as far as I can tell, according to pattern, but as you can see how wide in comparison, it's too wide. And the rest of the body actually fits quite nicely. It fits well through the bust and under the arms and stuff, but it, like, you know, if I was wearing it and, you know, my bra strap is here, then that part of the sleeve is like here, and it's on both sides. And I can wear it, you know, I could wear it over a like turtleneck or something, and I will wear it, but it's not great. And the next time I make it, I need to make some adjustments to make this distance less without making just a smaller size. So I just have to adjust the pattern, which is why you know, use tracing paper for the pattern, and I've got lots of the sewing tracing paper, so I'll cut it again, and I will just cut it with more fabric here and here, so the neckline is not as wide. So I made that, and now I'm going to branch into a couple of other patterns that I want to make, and I've got some new fabrics, and I'm going to show those to you. So the first thing I want to make, I might do some cutting out this weekend. I got some more of the same sort of seersucker as this in this really pretty green, and I think I'm going to make another one of these because, like I said, I wear this all the time. So I'm thinking that's what I might, this also maybe a skirt. Because that's the other pattern that I got from Sonia Phillips from 100 Active Sewing, is I got a skirt #1 pattern as well. So I want to make a couple of I want to try out that pattern and make a simple skirt. It's an elastic waist skirt, which is not my favorite skirt just for my figure. So I'm going to make it because it's simple, and I'm going to try it and see how it fits and how it looks. And then I may branch into trying to adapt it a bit so that it's at least not elastic across the front and doesn't add any extra bulk to my waist, which is not something I need. So, but this was this was an on sale, nice and inexpensive fabric that I can play around with, and I've got lots to do, whatever either another one of these dresses or maybe, like I said, a skirt. Then I've got two other fabrics that I think are going to become skirts. This one I really love. It's really pretty. I got this from fabric.com online. I think it's actually a quilting fabric. Pretty sure it's a quilting fabric. Slightly heavier weight cotton. Not beautiful. I want this to be a skirt for sure, but I want to find a skirt pattern that I like and that fits me and that I've made before and everything before I make this, because I want this to be one that I really like and will wear. So I'm going to do some skirt experimentation, and when I get to where I'm happy with skirts, this will become a skirt. I also have this, which I really like. I think it's really pretty. It's just a lightweight cotton, a very nice lightweight cotton. Again, it was on sale. It was cheap. It was one of the $5 a yard fabrics. It requires obviously a little bit more pattern matching because it's stripes, but I think that would make a fun little skirt as well. So that's what I'm thinking of for that. And then I bought two other patterns. So I found another independent pattern designer who has some really cute patterns, who does, bless her heart, make patterns in the larger sizes. And grades her patterns up to fit up to my size, which super excited me. And that is on Instagram. She's So Liberated, and I think that's the name of her company, is So Liberated. Her name is Meg McElwee. You've probably seen her patterns. Again, if you're on Instagram and you look at sewing stuff at all, you've probably seen her patterns before. And her latest release is a dress called the Hinterland dress, and that's what I want to make. And it's a lovely pattern that is quite adaptable to no sleeves, short sleeves, buttons in the bodice just in here, buttons all the way down the front. There's different lengths. There's a bunch of different adaptations you can do to it. It looks fairly simple and straightforward. It will be a step up from what I've been doing, but it doesn't look like it's going to be monster complicated. And I've got an inexpensive fabric to do it with the first time, so that, as I said, if it doesn't turn out perfect, I haven't really lost much because I've got $15 worth of fabric. So, and I really like this. Again, it was a lightweight cotton. I think it's probably a cotton polyester blend. It's in this pale greeny. It looks a little more green on the camera. It is a little more yellow, and it probably depends on the light whether it looks pale yellow or pale green. And it's got a little kind of gentle pattern on it. It's lightweight. I got lots of it, and like I said, it would be great as a sort of a muslin tryout of that Hinterland dress. And then if it works out, and when I'm happy with it, I got off fabric.com as well. I've got some love. It's a linen blend, and I really like this, and I think this would make a really cute one of those as well, that Hinterland dress. I think probably I will make the sleeveless button up, at least button up down. I don't know whether I will make it button all the way down the front or just through the bodice, but I think that will be a very versatile garment for me as well. Similar to this kind of thing, because I can put them over t-shirts and with leggings and stuff like that and wear them at work. So those are my sewing plans, and I'm really excited, and I've been getting feeling a little bit more confident with my sewing machine, which is great. I did, at my sister's recommendation, I spent some time and I pulled up a bunch of videos about my machine on YouTube, which I hadn't done before, even though I've had the machine for a while now and I've been using it a bit. It was actually really helpful to go and look at some of those. I needed to do a little adjustment to the alignment of the needle is what sort of started it. I found a video that showed me exactly how to do that on YouTube. And then I discovered there were a whole bunch more other demos for my particular machine. I watched those and I thought, oh, there's some great little tips and tricks. And things like the buttonhole maker, which I had been intimidated by, so haven't done anything with buttonholes yet. After watching a few videos of how to use it on my machine, I'm like, okay, now I actually think I have a bit more confidence to try it out. So anyway, that is all of my content. This is a slightly shorter video than usual because I have less to show you, but that is everything that I have been working on for the last few weeks. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. I always say talk to you. Talk at you is kind of more accurate, really, but I hope you don't feel talked at. But it's been a pleasure to record this episode. I always really enjoy this, and I really enjoy the interaction I have with some of you. I had some lovely comments on the last episode and some new viewers, and that was great. So until next time, happy knitting.